All right, so Game of Thrones just ended the entire series. The series finale tonight. Was it any good? Was it better than the last episodes, which many people have not enjoyed? So, did this episode redeem season 8 or the series? Was it a fitting season finale, series finale? What do you think?
I think the episode was slightly underwhelming, but it was still satisfying to be the ending. And I like that they didn't cater too much to what we wanted as the ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like it was like they were trying to wrap it up or tie a nice little bow on top and have a nice, satisfying ending. But a lot of it kind of just, to me, felt kind of dumb. But I mean, I don't think that episode 6 was as unsatisfactory as some of the other things that happened. But what do you think that they did right in this episode to kind of wrap up the series?
Well, I liked that it felt there was closure for all the characters. Everything felt wrapped up. It didn't feel like they left anything hanging. I didn't think. But every season of Game of Thrones has been like there's something that happens that's really exciting or really shocking
Yeah.
or really like it might upset you, but it like gives you a strong emotion.
Yeah.
And I didn't really feel any like strong emotion one way or the other with this episode. I mean, I guess a lot of people are probably really upset about Dany dying, but I think there was enough foreshadowing that we knew that that was going to happen. So it wasn't really shocking.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. So that didn't shock me. I was actually a little bit underwhelmed by that because it was kind of obvious that Jon was going to be the one to do it. And then it happened, you know, just the way that you kind of imagined. So I kind of thought that that was a little bit underwhelming, but I like what they did with making Bran the new ruler. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but it was better than just like the really like basic predictable ending, which would have been Jon being,
I'm king now.
Yeah, Jon becoming the king.
I didn't want it, but now I'm king and I have to do it.
Yeah, Jon becoming like, oh, he's the heir to the throne. He's Targaryen. Like that would have just been him killing Dany and him becoming king would have been too predictable. So I like that too straightforward. So I like that they made it Bran. That was at least somewhat surprising to me. It wasn't, you know.
Yeah, and it's neat and actually makes sense because he's like indifferent. He just kind of sits in his little chair and he's like, I'm the three-eyed raven and practically a robot.
When I was watching the episode, I didn't know if I liked the suggestion that it would be Bran, but then when they explained it, it's like, oh yeah, he does know the past. He knows the whole, you know, history of Westeros. And so he would be the least likely to make the same mistakes over and over again. So, and whereas Daenerys or Jon or anybody else would be likely to just repeat history over and over again.
Yeah, and like I didn't even like if you predicted this, like good on you. Like let us know in the comments below if you actually had thought that Bran would be like the choice for them, because before Tyrion even brought it up, I was like, oh, okay, who are they going to choose? I have no idea. And then he said Bran, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense, I guess.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
I kind of thought it's either going to be Jon, or it might be interesting if Jon died and they made it Sansa. So this was actually even way more interesting than either of those endings because
yeah, definitely.
Bran was not someone on my radar, and I didn't think it made sense. And then the whole time during episode 3, I kept thinking, why didn't they just kill off Bran? Like that would have been a good time to kill off Bran.
Yeah, this whole time I'm thinking, what is Bran's purpose? Why is he there? He's been like he went through this entire journey, became the three-eyed raven. What is his payoff? Okay, he's king of the 6 kingdoms.
Yeah, so I think it was a decent ending. Now, I will explain the ending that I would have liked, which most people wouldn't have, but I don't care. I think it would have been an epic ending. if in episode 3, not all of the White Walkers died, right? Maybe there was another Night King out there somewhere that we didn't know about. And so they think that they've killed off all the Night Kings or all the White Walkers and all the whites. And then they have this happy little ending, but then they cut to this like scene of like far off in the north where there's another group of White Walkers.
And they're headed south.
And you get the sense that, oh, history's going to repeat itself. Like,
it's North's north.
You just have this foreboding thought that, like, history's going to repeat itself again, you know? Because I think that's why Dany had to become kind of evil, because it's just showing how, like, once you get the power and once I think you're...
absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, like that whole idea of Dany was good until she, became the king or queen, and then now she's just doing the same thing her father did, so...
I thought, it makes me wish that they just, like, build this up more, and I know that this is, if you've watched Game of Thrones reviews... This is like the biggest problem that people have, is that there wasn't a lot of buildup or enough buildup to make this satisfying. And I wish that Daenerys's whole philosophy or her thought pattern with this and her quote unquote reasoning for burning all of King's Landing, even all the innocent people, was to, I have to, stop this wheel that's spinning. And the only way I can do that is take over everything. And basically what I thought was, burn everything to the ground and start fresh, start from scratch. But it kind of just, last episode, she's just like, oh, they surrendered? I'm going to kill y'all anyway. Which was super out of nowhere, I felt, and I'm so many people agree with that. Although there were hints, it just wasn't enough.
We always knew you could tell ever since, like, I feel like season 6, you could kind of tell she was slowly kind of losing it. I feel like you could tell she was kind of a little bit times too brutal. And her advisors would have to bring her back down.
Yeah, and it never was against innocents. It was always against people who have done wrong.
Yeah, but she was at times a little bit too brutal. And Tyrion would have to ground her. Her other advisors would have to ground her. So we got hints of it. We knew it was going to happen. But they did make her turn a little too quickly, I think.
It was very Anakin Skywalker.
I think it wasn't that bad. But it wasn't that level.
I mean, I'm sure some people think it was worse or it was better than Anakin Skywalker, but it just gave off those vibes, which is not a good thing. Anything that gives off prequel Star Wars vibes is not a good thing.
Well, I kind of feel like her explanation of why she's doing what she was doing in episode 6 made up for her craziness a little bit, because she explained it. She explained what she was thinking. She said, I can't remember how she worded it, but we can't.
Well, she mentioned the wheel, and she's like, I have to start it over. Like, we can't have all these warring people. I'm gonna destroy everything to stop the wars.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like, in that sense, she wasn't like her father, in that she was just completely psycho. She just, I think episode 6 did help fix her turn, because she at least explained.
I think it helped. It helped me feel a little bit better about it. I don't think it was good still, though.
Oh.
Quite.
I think I'm satisfied with the ending. I think what I don't like about it is that there wasn't anything surprising or shocking or twists or turns that they threw at us like they usually do.
Yeah, everything was just too neat, and this is the end of the series. Here's happy Arya sailing off, and happy this, happy that. It's like a primetime television sitcom wrap-up episode,
I guess. I mean, it wasn't all happy with Daenerys dying and Jon getting, having to go back to the north.
Yeah, that's like the most unhappy thing that happened. Obviously, Daenerys dying. Well, which brings up, like, at the end, Bran was like, have you seen any word of Drogon? And they're like, no. And he's like, I can probably help with that. I was expecting, I was hoping that he would go into like a raven or see it through Drogon's eyes and see how the dragon's flying around in the clouds, and then that's how the episode would kind of end and go into the credits.
Yeah.
But instead we end on Jon and a bunch of people just walking around through the forest, and that's like half this episode was just people like slowly walking around. And that's why it's an hour and a half long, and so many of the other episodes of this season were so long because the scenes just drag out super long. And you didn't even like episode 2, was it? I think, where they're just sitting around talking for most of the episode.
I think a lot of people liked episode 2, but I didn't. I was like, let's get to the battle.
I think it's because it's very character centric.
Well, I like that normally, but I felt like they just were spending way too long on certain characters with certain things and not enough time. Like, they could have spent that time focusing on Dany and her going more crazy, but no, they just kind of spent it on like Brienne and Jaime and them and Tormund all sitting around the fire,
getting drunk, having a part. Oh wait, that was episode 4. This was before that, where everybody's kind of solemn, kind of getting their character moments in before the big battle.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Episode 2, them sitting around the fire and just, Brienne getting knighted and all that, which was cool, but it was just like, I wanted to spend more time.
That time could
elsewhere.
have been spent developing what was going to happen.
Exactly. Instead of just, the calm before the storm. But I know a lot of people like that episode. That was my least favorite one, episode 2. But I guess I was just disappointed because everything was a little bit too predictable this season, aside from the very ending, which we're making Bran king, that's why I like that.
That and Arya killing the Night King.
That was good, except the Night King was way too easy to kill. And that's why
super anticlimactic.
I was really hoping there was still more White Walkers out there somewhere, so that entire battle didn't feel too simple or too easy.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it showed so many people dying, so much this and that. It's just having such a huge buildup, such a huge looming threat for so long, you kind of expect it to do more. Like, obviously it had a lot of damage, but it was just one episode, one and done. And then
in one night.
Yeah, that's why it felt so anticlimactic.
They were defeated in one night. The Night King and his entire army was easier to defeat than Cersei's been. Cersei's been this, problem the whole time. Like, it felt...
Well, until episode 6.
It felt too easy to defeat the Night King. So that was I think, my least favorite part of this season, about how easy it was to just destroy all the White Walkers in one fell swoop. But I think episode 6 did redeem the season a little bit. Like, I'm happy with the ending.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it is satisfying. To me, it doesn't feel Game of Thrones. It's a little bit too neat and tidy. Not to say I didn't enjoy it. I still enjoyed this season a lot. It's still a good show, I think. From a writing standpoint, it's a little bit disappointing. A lot of things are rushed and anticlimactic. This episode did feel like it was just wrapping up everything all hunky-dory, goody two-shoes, Arya's, I'm going to be a Lewis and Clark now. And she's like, I'm an assassin. And then, I don't want revenge anymore. I'm going to be an explorer. That was kind of weird, but that was cool, I guess. She's going to go discover. But Sansa becoming Queen of the North, I guess.
I liked that.
Yeah, that was cool. And that was a predictable thing. I mean,
I like that even though Bran became king, she still wanted the North to maintain their sovereignty. So I liked that.
Yeah, and that made sense. I mean, that's just more wrap up of that. Because you think, Daenerys is now queen, so Sansa's gonna go against her, and then they're gonna war against each other. But nope, Jon kills Daenerys, and then he gets imprisoned, and then everything becomes hunky-dory.
Well, what I did like about this season is they didn't worry too much about making their viewers like it, which is, I think a lot of people don't like that, but I like that they just told the story that they set out to tell, and they didn't sit there and worry about, you know, if their viewers were going to like the way it ends. And, you know, I'm okay with that. That's what I wanted. I wanted them to do something shocking or different that wasn't just what the viewers wanted. And I think they did that somewhat.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that wanted Daenerys to become the Mad Queen. And that's something that I don't know if I don't really like it, I guess, because I always like an arc where, because she's like fighting her madness that she's kind of hereditarily gotten from her father and her family. But I would have loved it if she was fighting that madness and actually won over it and said, you know what, I know, and acknowledge that she has this, but then acknowledge that the people around her help her to quell that madness. And I kind of wish that she just went and destroyed the Red Keep.
Well, and I think that's why episode 6 redeemed it a little bit, because that's what we thought, if she just went crazy and out of nowhere. But I think her explanation of why she did what she did shows us that she actually didn't go crazy. She had
reasoning.
She just got too much power. That's what happened. She just got too much power. She got too cocky. She was too used to having her way all the time. And, you know, being praised for all the conquering she was doing over in Essos.
And everything she thought she was doing good. Like, she is the only right person.
And I think what happened to Daenerys, I think that the story is like that. That's what happens to all the kings. Because you'll notice every king becomes corrupt. So it's like, and Daenerys is no exception, you know? So I like that it's just this cycle, this wheel that she thinks she's breaking, but she's actually just part of it.
She's just playing right into it.
And breaking the wheel is actually making Bran the king, because he is not going to fall into that trap.
Exactly.
So I feel like that's kind of where they were going with that. So I actually don't think she went crazy the same way that her father did, like we were thinking in episode 5. I think her explanation shows us, oh no, she went crazy the way that like Cersei went crazy with too much power, or the way that Joffrey went crazy with too much power, or the way that all the kings have become with too much power.
Yeah.
So.
And she's like, I'm right, I'm good, my way is better, and once I become the queen of the world, then everything will be nice. But I really think it's funny how Sam Tarly stood up and said, well, why don't we have the people decide and take a vote, basically.
Yeah.
And we'll establish democracy right here and now. And then the camera pauses on everybody for 3 hours. And they're like, no. And they start freaking cracking up at him. That was pretty funny. But man, like, speaking of that kind of stuff, the tone of this was kind of all over the place. You have a really riveting and gripping emotional scene between Daenerys and Jon, and you can see that he's like obviously in turmoil over this, and he feels like, okay, I have to do this now, and he kills her. And then you have like a couple scenes later with Tyrion going and adjusting all the chairs for 35 minutes at his hands table. Speaking of dragging things out, and it's like supposed to be this quirky, humorous scene, and it's like, dude, you're in this city where tons of innocent children and people were just slaughtered, and we're having like this humorous thing. I guess it kind of balances out. I thought it was funny, but when you really think about it, it's like, oh man, this is dark.
Yeah, that didn't bother me too much. It was a happier season than most seasons, but I kind of feel like we've been wanting that. Like, we've been wanting some sort of like sunlight in this desolate winter. Yeah, I feel like we've been wanting that. So, and they didn't make it overly happy. I mean,
I felt like, it was a little bit too far for me, like a little bit soap opera-ish.
Yeah.
And I like to call it primetime television sitcom.
One thing they did do for fan service, which I think they had to do and was necessary, was John petting Ghost, because everybody was in an
They were
uproar
so mad
about John not saying goodbye to Ghost, and then we see John reunite with Ghost, and I just know that fans were like, probably.
Okay, well, that's why he didn't say bye to him earlier, because he has this scene later on.
Yeah, I guess. But I think that was probably a good scene for fans to see, because they were upset about that. So
I definitely thought this episode was better than the last one, because the last one was just destruction porn, you know, freaking innocents getting slaughtered. But this one, it's wrapping everything up, and I think a lot of it was satisfying. I thought some of it was kind of dumb, but satisfying. A lot of it was really predictable, like Sansa, John going to the Night's Watch. Like, that's interesting, because he ends where he basically began his journey. And now it looks like he's going to go up and live with the wildlings. Can he even do that?
I don't think he's living with the wildlings. I think he's just, I think they might be implying, or at least I hope they're implying, that there may be some more White Walkers up there, like maybe in a future spin-off or something.
Yeah, I mean, they can really do anything.
I guess they're leaving it open, so that could happen.
Yeah, isn't there some sort of spin-off series or something?
I don't, well, they're creating one.
I don't know. I think some animated series would be pretty cool, like some animated miniseries, but
I think they're also talking about making a prequel to the season.
Huh.
But anyway, overall, I think it was a little bit mediocre, but I'm okay with it, because I like that they told the story that they were setting out to tell, and they didn't just cater too much to their audience. They weren't worried about, they just told the story, and that's what they've done all along. Like, they, don't care too much about what their audience thinks. They just tell the story.
I think it was a pretty fitting to the last episode, because last episode everybody's like, Jesus, what do they do now?
Right.
And well, this is the answer to that. There's a lot of stillness going on toward the beginning of this episode, with Tyrion walking around for 9 hours.
See, okay, so the pacing never really bothered me in this episode. I was okay with it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was, because
you usually hate scenes that drag out.
I know, I normally do, but this was the very last episode, and I just felt like they needed to just take their time. They just needed to take their time.
If there is any episode or any time where you take your time and let everything soak in, it's the last episode, I guess.
Like, there wasn't much else to do other than to just kind of show us where the characters are going to go from here. And they just kind of took time with each character to show us where they're going to go from here. And so I wasn't expecting too much, I guess.
Yeah, and Grey Worm, I guess, is just kind of a bully. He didn't seem that upset about Daenerys dying. He was just kind of grumpy about it.
Oh, I thought he seemed upset.
I mean, he was upset. He's just like, my queen's dead. Now we have to decide, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't really get a reaction to that. There's Jon killing Daenerys, and then we cut to, okay, Jon's in prison. We didn't get a reaction from Grey Worm. And now these leaders of the Seven Kingdoms are here to decide who's going to be, like, what's going to happen. But speaking of the Daenerys death scene with Drogon coming in, that was really cool, because, I mean, these dragons are always super intimidating, and Jon is obviously scared of Drogon, like, what's going to happen? And he just, like, flames over there. He's like, oh, my mom's dead. There's a chair there. I better destroy the chair, symbolically.
I liked that. Yeah, I liked that he destroyed the chair.
Yeah, I kind of was expecting the chair to be destroyed during the destruction of the city. But it's interesting, and the imagery is really cool, of the chair just sitting there around all of the destroyed throne room, basically. But that was really cool effects of the stupid chair melting.
Yeah.
The Iron Throne, not stupid chair. But I guess that wraps up our thoughts on the ending. It was pretty satisfying. The season overall was probably the weakest of all, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, it was. I feel like episode 6 did help with the other episodes. You know, it was a little bit underwhelming, but still satisfying.
That's kind of helped put the flames out.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. So it was fine. I think it's one of those seasons that you like more thinking back on it, not necessarily while you're watching it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess let us know what you think in the comments below. We just watched it, so that's kind of our initial thoughts on everything. As always, thank you very much for watching. We do reviews on series occasionally on this channel. Mostly it's about anime and, you know, mostly Dragon Ball stuff. But occasionally we have discussions about series. So if you like what we do here, you know, give us a subscribe and we will do more discussions like this in the future. As always, thank you very much for watching and take it easy.